It's Monday, December 5th, and yesterday I heard something on the radio that scared the shit out of me. But then, after thinking it over, it only upset me a little bit. And it deals with something that I heard about airplanes. Now, I haven't been on an airplane for a couple of years, but in my business career I flew a lot. I went coast to coast several times each year, and I went to different cities to run conferences and things like that. So I did a lot of flying during my business time. And I always enjoyed it, and I never worried about it. But now, and I'm listening to this brief announcement, and I didn't catch the whole thing, but then I went ahead and did some research on it. And the announcement basically said that the airlines are planning to fly planes with a single pilot. And that's supposed to go, at least this is their target date, into effect around 2027. Now, I think that's a huge mistake. Unless they have some form of backup that we can all agree that is 100% or maybe 100% better than a pilot. Like some kind of robotic system or something that each plane will have that can be controlled by somebody on the ground or something like that. But in the meanwhile, I'm against having only one pilot in the plane. That to me is taking the public's lives in their hands. Because pilots are exceptional beings. They have to know much more than how to fly a plane. The management of the aircraft in the air is just a single piece of their. So anything less than two pilots on a plane, I think, would be a big mistake. And I recognize the fact that the pandemic played hell with the airlines. And it's still playing hell with the airlines. Flight cancellations are up by some enormous percentage. And many people just stopped flying because of the mask situations and everything else that was going on with the pandemic. And they haven't recovered from that. And at least one airline went out of business because, and then there were some mergers and everything. So the airline industry has suffered greatly in this situation. But to step forward with this no two-pilot plan is a big mistake in my mind. And so they put forward this plan, and they expect you to get comfortable with flying without a co-pilot. And pilots and flyers are not convinced that this is the right thing to do. And I don't blame them. The pilots, of course, want to protect their jobs. But recognize the fact from the airline situation, they don't have enough pilots. They can't get enough pilots. And pilots have to be very healthy every time they get in a plane. So that's another factor. I don't know what the sick leave arrangements are with pilots, but you know that unhealthy pilots don't fly planes. And I don't know where that stops, but I guess each individual pilot can say, I'm not well enough to fly a plane. And some of them, even with the same conditions as some other pilot, will fly. So it's up to the pilot to decide whether he's well enough to fly. There's a shortage of pilots. They have to be at the top of their game when they get into the pilot seat. So why are they messing around trying to get one pilot on a plane? And maybe that's because if they have one pilot on a plane, they can fly more planes. We know, as I've said before, there were a lot of cancellations, and many of those cancellations were not caused by the weather or something like that. They were probably caused by lack of employees, lack of pilots. There aren't that many pilots to go around. And you can't go to pilot school and become a commercial pilot. You have to have something like 25,000 hours in the air before you can qualify to be a commercial pilot. So this is a very, very tough job, a very critical job, and not anybody, just anybody off the street can become a pilot. So the mere fact that the airlines are seriously considering flying without a co-pilot is a terrible stretch of their imaginations. And I recognize the economics of the situation. Less pilots, lower costs, and it would ease the pressure of crew shortages. But placing the responsibility of a plane on a single person in the controls all alone is very unsettling. I don't know if there's a lot of pilots that would even feel comfortable flying as a single person. Now maybe they could create a robot that could be a co-pilot, robot co-pilots. But I don't know if that'll work in the minds of many. And I think if one airline tried it experimentally, they would find out that people were not going to fly with them. Because there's a lot of people who won't fly in a single pilot plane. And there's over 40 countries, including Germany and the UK and New Zealand, that have asked for the United Nations. The United Nations, what a waste. That is a wasted organization. They want the United Nations to set aviation standards to help make single pilot flights a safe reality. Now, if the UN is involved, I am definitely 125% against it. Because when you bring them into the game, it's like having a bunch of amateurs running the business. That should be up to the countries. That should be up to their airlines. And for the time being, I think that every country that considers having a single pilot in the plane is doing a great disservice to the traveling community. Unless they can make sure that the planes are never going to have a problem and that anybody who's in the cockpit is experienced enough to bring it home safely, they shouldn't even think about this thing. This is a waste of time and effort even considering this situation. But I know that it's all about money, really. It's a desperate situation. They can't get enough people to fly. The airline fares have gone through the roof. People don't want to fly because of pandemic and the COVID restrictions. And no, now they're messing around with another reason why people won't fly. They're going to take away a pilot. And do you think that a businessman who travels all around, like I did for a long time, is going to sit still for this nonsense? No, there's going to be a major uproar. And if this thing goes into effect, you watch the airline industry lose more money. And this plan, of course, doesn't sit well with the pilots. They don't want to be out there alone by themselves in the cockpit. And it's a hard sell for the passengers also. Passengers don't want to be on a plane where there's only one person flying. And I recognize the economics of the situation. Less pilots, lower costs, and it would ease the pressure of crew shortages. But placing the responsibility of a plane on a single person in the controls all alone is very unsettling. So that's my feeling. I'll see you in the morning. Bye.